Say go, Big House here. We had talked about the Indians being stereotypical of the big headdress and feathers all over the place. But realistically, here's the images of great war chiefs and chiefs of nations over 1,000 years ago. And you don't see any of these big headdresses here. These are all realistic headdresses of native tribes all over. But it brings me to a story of more than 1,000 years ago, and this is a story I heard on the reservation as a child, so I cannot document it because it's just a verbal story that I heard. Now, understand that the Huron nation went all the way from the Blackfoot nation out west and further in the south, like Montana right now. But they were some of the most vicious warriors and bravest warriors of all times. The Blackfoot Indians controlled everything and protected all the smaller tribes of the hunters, gatherers, and growers and clothing makers. They were the warriors, just like the Mohawks were for the Iroquois. And they stretched from there all the way to the Huron territories in like Saskatchewan, Manitoba. The Hurons went all the way to the east coast, almost to the ocean. Now, at that point, the Iroquois went from about central Ohio all the way to the ocean for protection of the Iroquois nations. The Hurons and the Iroquois were mortal enemies. This is a story that I heard as a child over and over and over again. Now, understand that an Indian in that time, or native or First Nation, whatever you want to call them, at that time, the warriors all had something called a battle stick. It was only a foot long, and it was made of wood with leather on each side and feathers and decoration. And the center of the stick was their personal symbol or sign. So mine is three stripes over three polka dots. And it honors my mentor, Son Aguade, which is two stripes over two polka dots. So I honored him by adding a stripe and a polka dot. But this battle stick would identify that particular Indian in battle, and this was his form of pride. Well, it seems that a war council had come together between the Hurons and the Iroquois. All the great leaders and healers got together and decided they were going to have a battle. They were tired of wondering who was the strongest and the bravest. They were going to have a battle to kill off every last warrior till only one survived. And when that one survived, either Iroquois or Huron, the whole world would know who was the strongest and the bravest of the two nations. A healer walked into the ceremony with no weapons, no protection, with just a story. And he had a solution to this. He said, if you kill off every last warrior of these two great nations, who will be left to be proud and tell the story of your people, and who will be there to protect them? Instead of killing off the Indians, let's have a battle, but a battle of strategy, so that you would not kill an Indian, you would sneak up on the Indian warrior and touch him with your battle stick, which is only 1 foot. So you imagine sneaking up in the wilderness on an Indian and getting so close that you could touch him with your battle stick first. Once you touched him, he had to surrender his battle stick and leave the field of battle. Now, the way the story goes, that these two nations lined up on two separate mountains with a valley in between, and the battle started. They each went into the valley, and the story I got, believe it or not, was within 3 years they fought the battle in the valley with just getting the other man's battle stick. Now understand, at that point a warrior would rather be brutally killed, murdered, or whatever it took, rather than you take his battle stick or you offer it to him and take his pride along with it. he'd rather be killed than have that taken and shamed. But the way I hear the story, of course, because I'm Mohawk, Iroquois Mohawk, is that the Iroquois Mohawks finally won the battle. Of course, if you have a Huron telling the story, they probably won the battle. But unbelievably enough, that was the story of the battle stick.